The following is a production of Fenix Media. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the company or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.
You know, out in Nevada near the silver mines, there's a kind-hearted woman. She's looking so fine, always taking care of her community. Bringing folks together is her cup of tea. She's out on the road and all over the web with a big smiling heart. It's About Town Deb.
And welcome to this week's episode of About City Talk with About Town Deb. And I'm so excited to have Kim Surratt back. Once a month I've had her. Yes. So Kim, put your hand up so they know who you are.
How about my whiskey up? There we go.
Do that. And Jessica Cisneros with Safe Embrace. So do you have a cup or something that you can hold up? Let's do it.
Exactly. I'm still at the office, so I just have a single bottle of water, but staying hydrated.
Well, cheers. Let's
cheers.
do it. Cheers to amazing women in our community who are rocking the world and coming together to make a difference. So you have to take a sip or you can't cheer, even if it's water.
Even with water?
Mm-hmm.
Simple requirements of cheers.
Yeah. So, with all of that said, I am excited to be here. We are a production of FenixMedia.us, and Christian behind the scenes is doing all the work to make this happen. And thank you, Christian. You can go to FenixMedia.us and find out about all the different shows. You can go to AboutTownDeb.com and find out more. If you want to be a sponsor or be a part of our show or have some cool show ideas. So normally beginning of the show, we kind of say a little bit about, well, we are going to be talking with Jessica, and Kim has lots of questions for her. And Safe Embrace has partnered with Awaken, and they have a great project they're doing and so much more that's so important we're going to talk about. So stay tuned for that. It'll probably be the end of the first segment, beginning of the second segment, or end of the whole rest of the show. So we normally say a little bit about what has been happening with me. I was excited. I got to go to kind of closer to Kim's neck of the woods. Jazzy Georgia and Melissa and I, who's my new social media gal and assistant, just like Georgia, she's a rock star. I have two amazing women, and Kim on the sidelines making sure we do everything legally and right with her law practice. But we went to Carson City and stayed at the Holiday Inn Express.
Saw that.
I'm telling you, so it is so clean. I think now hotels and restaurants are doubly clean, triply clean. But we got to the room, there was flowers, there was candy, and I ate all the candy, and they had chips, and I actually brought the candy home and just finished it today. So whiskey and chocolate, I don't know, but that was my day today. But we had an amazing time in Carson City, and we were thinking about Jim, because Jim had said that he works above the Squeeze Inn, correct?
Yeah, correct. His Edward Jones office is right above the Squeeze Inn.
And we were at Old World Coffee, and George is like, there's a reason why I'm remembering somebody we know like works really close to this. And we went, she goes, Jim. So we were actually going to text him and say, are you at work? But we just had a quick cup and we left. So had a great time.
Oh, you should have. He'd have loved it.
Well, we'll be there often now. And then we went a little further and went into Carson Valley, and we stayed at the Carson Valley Inn, and we got spoiled. And that reminded me of Kim, because Kim is all about Basque food.
I am.
Oh my gosh. So you might know, I don't know, there's dollars up there, and somebody said you throw them. How do you make a dollar stick to a wall? Do you have a dollar up there, Kim?
I do not, because I failed every time, but my son got one up there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, but it's not easy. They show you the trick. They show you a trick to it.
But they didn't show you?
Yeah, but I'm not talented. You know, I don't have hand-eye coordination.
You can shoot a bow. You can shoot a bow. Come on, if you could shoot.
I can't, but throwing things, I don't throw things. Ask anybody in my family. I don't.
Yeah. So we really had a great time. So we stayed. We did a little bit of shopping. Carson Valley Inn. I had not been there in such a long time, and we had a beautiful suite and a steakhouse. Oh my gosh, we need to all go there. It was so good, and the meal was exquisite. They spoiled us. Georgia did a little bit of gambling. We met some cool people, met some new friends.
Jim and I go down to Douglas County all the time for dates. We love it down there.
Well, then you know what? I need some tips on date nights there, because I'm also going to continue.
Antique store called the Red Barn that has
Ooh, the
bark
Red
movie.
Barn.
Oh, cool
Okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get after hours. We're gonna be talking about where we can plan some cool getaways for Valentine's Day. So that really, the whole weekend and last part of the week, I was exploring new areas in our own backyard in Nevada, and we also went there because did my segment. I have an About Town Dev segment on Good Day Carson, which is changing. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell to Good Day Nevada. You heard it here.
Oh, there you go. There you
So
go.
anyway, so that's exciting because now About Town Dev can we want to focus on these smaller towns in Nevada. And Kim, I know you know
No,
all
that's my
about
forte.
it is your forte. So
I love
will
rural
be-
Nevada.
and that's what we want to focus on. So About Town Deb is going to be a little bit more rural than city when I'm in the Carson Valley area. And Carson City. So I'm excited about that. So that's pretty much what I've been doing is just doing that and now coming back doing social. But now it's time to get on to business. So Jessica, we have a couple minutes before we get into the meat and potatoes of this. Tell us a little bit about Safe Embrace. Then we come back, I'll let Kim take over.
Okay, sounds good. So Safe Embrace is a local nonprofit here in the Reno-Sparks area. We serve survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. We have the largest co-ed shelter here in Washoe County. We have 32 beds. We also have some pretty extensive community housing programs that are currently housing anywhere between 20 and 28 families, because really our goal is about self-sustainability. We have legal resources. We have legal advocates that can assist with TPOs. When court is in session, they can do court accompaniment, things like that. We also have a really robust awareness and outreach and prevention education program. So we do a lot of these different campaigns throughout the year, really just to raise awareness. So we did a large campaign in October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We're doing one this month, obviously, for human trafficking. And then April, we will launch our sexual assault awareness campaign. So we kind of cover the gamut from all the way to prevention to intervention and anything in between. So kind
Okay.
of just trying to do everything we can.
Well, you are doing everything you can and so much more. So we're going to take our first break. And when we come back, Kim is going to take over and she's got some hard-hitting questions for you. We want to find out a lot about your new campaign you're doing and lots more. So stay tuned. It's About Town Deb, Kim Surratt on City Talk. And also, we also want to thank Kim as our sponsor with Surratt Law Practice and Kirk Allure with Gratis Gives Processing. And we'll mention him when we come back too. We'll be right back.
Cheers.
I spend a lot of time in the backyard, and I'm the center of attention at summer barbecues. In '96, I made some of the tastiest s'mores. And in '09, it was me, your backyard fire pit, that accidentally started a wildfire when a summer breeze carried one of my embers into some dry brush.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com, brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
What if I told you that a tornado was going to happen tomorrow, right where you live? That it would touch down at exactly 3:17 p.m., and I told you the exact path it would take. You would, of course, prepare. You would talk with your loved ones, and you'd make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a tornado will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you have a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait, communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Now more than ever, family matters, and Surratt Law Practice has your family in mind. Kimberly Surratt and her team have been helping maintain healthy families through their holistic approach to adoption and surrogacy, child custody, estate planning, and more for over 13 years. Your family law concerns are in caring hands with Surratt Law. Schedule your private consultation with a compassionate Surratt Law Practice team member today by calling 775-636-8200 or visiting lawyersforfamilies.com. Surratt Law, where family matters.
You're listening to Fenix Media. Listen live and explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
She's out on the road and all over the web with a big smiling heart. It's About Town Deb.
My town, your town, or any town, this is About Town Deb presents City Talk. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back to the second segment of City Talk. And I'm About Town Deb, your host, with Kim Surratt by my side right down there. That's me. And Jessica is right over here with Safe Embrace. And I want to thank Kim Surratt one more time, and I thank her all the time, Surratt Law Practice for being our sponsor, and Kirk Allure with Gratis Gives Processing. And it's good timing that Jessica's here with Safe Embrace, because a portion of your credit card processing fees or payment fees go right back to you. And I want to say there's 11 or 12 nonprofits locally that they support. So I'm excited to be a part of that. So now anytime Kim makes a payment, she's making a donation. So it's really cool. So I'm very happy with that. And the little tune you heard, that is my friend Dee Dee James. Oh, my little bells are ringing. That is Dee Dee James. You go to ddjames.com, and the hair, as usual, is compliments of caliber. So there we go. Kim, I'm going to let you take it over for the second segment.
All right, let's dig in. Jessica, this is always kind of it's heavy, I know, especially when we go from talking about whiskey and Carson Valley Inn and vacations, right? But it's heavy. How do you answer this? This is what I get as a family law attorney all the time. There's human trafficking in Reno, Nevada. My kids aren't, susceptible to that. They would know. I would know if they were. How do you answer those families?
It's a really interesting question, because it does happen. We know it happens. We hear it happens. I mean, when you look at where we rank nationally in terms of human trafficking, we are ninth in the nation. And it happens in our backyard. And there are a lot of different factors as to why it's happening in our backyard. I have a funny story about labor trafficking. That was one of the things that I was like, no, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in Reno. That happens in rural communities. We've actually served numerous survivors here in Reno that were labor trafficked. And I was blown away the first time, because I was like, this really is happening.
Right, so I'm going to jump in. I don't know if the public knows what labor trafficked means.
That's what I was asking.
So, in our instance, somebody who is forced to work for little to no wage, a lot of times 42% of them are male. Some of the industries that we see are like your agricultural industries, your construction industries, your housekeeping. That's where we've seen a lot of our survivors who are coming out of that situation are coming from housekeeping or hospitality. So it is being forced to work, and there are times where some of these labor trafficking survivors are also experiencing the sex trafficking as well. And, we live in Nevada. It's a 24-hour town. There's this hustle and bustle, 24-hour nightlife. We have legalization of brothels in all but 2 counties, so it really is one of those things that, and again, we are
I-80
on the I-80 corridor
across the country.
Yeah, there's access to Nevada. I mean, people come and go, and we find that a lot of times, our survivors that are coming are traveling through, and they're just coming through. They're coming from Sacramento, and then they're going all the way through Nevada and stopping in and accessing service. So it does happen. It's a serious issue. And it's always interesting to me, that people are like, oh, that can't be my kid. It does. It happens to, I think a lot of times we see that, yes, is there a certain population that are pimps prey on? Absolutely.
Well, there's the susceptible, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But it happens to, it can happen to families living in any area with any SES in town. And I think that's what people don't fully understand, is that, you know, it just doesn't happen to, oh, well, it just happens to, you know, the girls and boys in foster care, the ones who are kind of forgotten about it. It can happen to anybody. And that's what I try and tell them. And we're, you know, when we're out there doing prevention education, we're talking about these issues with the youth, you know, really making them aware of what are the warning signs, what are the red flags, like what are some things that you should look for, you know, if somebody is, you know, in essence, sort of grooming you. So it happens. It is heavy. It's sad. I mean, when we look at just, I mean, in 1 year, the number collectively that Safe Embrace and Awaken have served, and a lot of those clients we serve holistically together, you know, 195, you know, that's, you know, that's a lot of victims, you know, to serve in 1 year. And they come with a very unique set of circumstances. And so these aren't victims that, you know, they recover quickly. They need a lot more. A lot of them have, you know, dual diagnoses. They have mental health issues. They have substance abuse issues. So we're really looking at a very unique population.
So we're looking, part of the reason we're having this conversation is because January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, right? So we're almost at the end of January, but I have found personally that you use some keywords that I think the public should know more about. And I think every parent of every child should know this. And it's not just parents of teenagers, because every child will become a teenager someday, right? Every child will be outside of your control at some point, or your complete control, unlike the infant, right? And grooming was one of those keywords that you threw out there really quick, but you know, the heart-wrenching moments I have with parents after their child's been groomed and after their child disappears into human trafficking is that had they just known what that was or known more about it. Can you give us a little more insight about it to help these parents?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I will be very honest with, you know, our population is mostly adults. We don't really do a whole lot of services with youth, but when we are doing some of those collaborative things with human trafficking and looking at some of those red flags, you know, of like, you know, and we always like to say with even, you know, our kids and our adults, it's not necessarily a male potentially that is grooming. You know, we sometimes find that
everybody always thinks that, right? It's such a gender-oriented thought process.
They do. And sometimes it's, you know, friends are bringing them into these situations and things like that and saying, hey, like, you know, you can make a lot of money fast, or, you know, there's this older charming individual that is, you know, buying them nice things and doing all these nice things for them that maybe they're not getting at home necessarily, or they feel spoiled, or they're getting that attention. And they're just really kind of starting to, you know, groom them into like, okay, let's give you all these nice things and then start to talk about this lifestyle. And then we see that it's not necessarily how it's perceived that way.
Well, and it comes out, so you talk about job grooming too, right? So I know I've done a lot of work with the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges. And we've looked at, I've gone to seminars where they've shown us flyers for job opportunities, right? And really all it is get the people to show up so they can start grooming them into trafficking, right?
Yeah, I used to see that a lot when I was in Las Vegas. It's funny you mentioned the council. I actually came from the council before I came to Safe Embrace. You know, we used to see a lot of those like, come audition for a music video, or come do modeling, or come do just very different things. You know, if you're a 16,
make really good money, better than you can at fast food, right?
Yeah, and you know, if you're 16 years old and you want to be famous, I mean, the last thing you're thinking is, I'm going to walk into this room and this is what's going to happen. You know, so it's, you know, it's just, if you wanted to be famous and you see this flyer for come dance for MTV, I mean, it's like, oh my God.
Why wouldn't you go, right?
Exactly. If that's
or even adults, if you're making minimum wage and you see this flyer, it says no experience needed, make $30 an hour, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. And I mean, and it's, you know, when we look at those, you know, those survivors, and, you know, I have a survivor just kind of in my head, and obviously I can't speak to specifics, but, you know, one of the things that she used to always tell us was, you know, and she was trafficked for a very long period of her life. And it was always a struggle for her, because going out into the real world and trying to find a place that she would make money to survive and to support her family, there was often that time where it was, do I go back? Do I sustain what I sustained with my abuser, my pimp, or do I try to get on straight and narrow and take this job that's only going to pay me $13 an hour and I have 3 mouths to feed, you know? And so it is. And, you know, once they're in the life, it's really hard to say, you know what, I'm going to turn this over. And yes, it wasn't the best, but at least I was making some sort of income where I could buy myself nice things. I didn't have to worry about a place to live. I didn't, I could feed my kids and not have to worry about those things. So yeah, that allure of that financial piece it's huge.
It's huge.
I just had a quick question. So you mentioned 16, but then you also mentioned feed your kids. So for me, I was thinking trafficking was more the 16, 17, or they're young and then they groom them. Are they actually getting young adults or men and women that I didn't realize that they could be like in their 20s? And because you said kids,
Absolutely.
I had no idea.
Well, and when we look at youth, the average age that a youth enters, and I say enters is because it's not by choice, but between 12 and 14 years old. I mean, I have heard stories of youth as young as 9 and 10, and we see there are adults that are, to this day, some of which have, been in our programming throughout that are, in their 50s or 60s too. There's that allure and they continue. And sometimes that's the only life they know. And they, if you started being trafficked at 15 years old and you're 42 now, and that's the only life you've ever lived, that's your norm, and it's hard. It's hard if you don't have the right services, and it is, like I said, with that specific survivor I was thinking about, it was hard. It was really difficult. So we would sit down, not me, but my case managers, and talk about those pros and cons of what does that look like if you go back.
Yeah. Well, and I think traditionally too, Debbie, a lot of people kind of historically people had that concept of like baby trafficking across international lines, right? As human trafficking. There's so many definitions of human trafficking way beyond just a flat sell of a slave across international borders, right, that trying to get the general public to understand that, because it's still that part where the general person says, human trafficking in Nevada, really? Or they think it's just the prostitution industry. No, it's much more than that. It's much greater than that. We're ready for a break, right, Debbie?
Yeah, we are ready for a break. So when we were, oh my gosh, Kim did say this was going to be a little bit heavy, but this is so that we realize that there's many ways, and the verbiage and the word, I had no idea. So this is great education for us. So I'm really grateful. We will be back. And so follow us on social media, on Facebook, chime in if you're watching the replay. If you need help, if you know anything, we're going to put the phone numbers in the remarks as well. So hang tight. City Talk, we're about to come down.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool, and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets, and they all have one thing in common. Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard, that's optional. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Allison is perfect. I mean, she'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird guinea pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hello, Kubo. What have you got planned for today?
Come on, this way.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals.
Wow.
And beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure. So grab your loved ones and explore a world of possibilities. Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My teacher said that we should have a plan in case of an emergency. Do we have one?
First thing I'm gonna do is grab a flashlight with dead batteries.
I'm going to start randomly throwing clothes in the bag. You two will be hiding in the closet and Dad won't be able to find you.
And that's when we both start crying.
Uncontrollably. Can you pass the cutlets?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency, who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311. Brought to you by the New York City Office of Emergency Management and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media, the future of broadcasting. Listen live at fenixmedia.us.
You know that's what she said. Come on, let's have some fun with About Town Deb.
My town, your town, or any town, this is About Town Deb presents City Talk. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back to the third segment. It goes so fast of City Talk. I'm your host, Debbie McCarthy. We have Kim Surratt, my co-host. We have Jessica with Safe Embrace. We've been talking some pretty serious stuff, but it's important stuff. So sometimes you see us all perky on the show, but every now and then we have to just dig deep. And that's when I love having Kim around.
You rely on me for the deep, emotional, sad stuff, right?
Yeah, we're going to take it back to Kim because we still have a few more questions that we would like to.
Yeah, we still want to get more information out there for the
have
public.
lots more to get out. So
I still want to talk to them about what this means. What is human trafficking? What can parents be looking out for? That term grooming. Grooming's the big thing. That it's not that your kids just get snatched into a car and taken off to another state and they were trafficked.
That's what I thought.
It's usually a training / grooming process where they're grooming them into it. They're changing their mindset because what you hear, like with all our most recent news about human trafficking with our very famous person in the country, is that they went willingly. And because what they're looking for is the psychology of they volunteered. They weren't actually kidnapped, right? They went because they went willingly is what the traffickers want us to believe. But what the truth is that they were psychologically duped into it and trained and groomed into that mindset. So, Jessica, what do we tell parents or family members of even adults, but what are we looking out for? What are the warning signs?
So, I think, some of the things, especially with our younger population, what I have, in my experience working with youth, which again, I don't have a ton, but, the isolation factor, I think that's a big thing too, is because again, this person is coming in, they're, providing them with gifts. So if you have, your 16-year-old daughter or son, because, again, I want to make it, I always like to make it, mention that it doesn't just happen with females or women.
Gender neutral, age neutral.
Very much. It has no set standard. And so, the gifts, just paying them a lot of attention, taking them out to each, sort of showing them that alluring lifestyle. And I think at that point you start to see like, where did you get this Michael Kors watch? Or where did you get this Louis Vuitton purse? Or, and sort of that pulling back from the family, that isolation component. So the child is starting to isolate a little bit more because maybe they're spending a lot more time with this person who is perceived to perhaps be their boyfriend. So a lot of times we think that they're in this relationship with said person, and this person is, again, grooming them, giving them all these nice things, alluring them with this lifestyle that, is very different from maybe what they're getting at home. And yes, they're, more often than not, a lot of times they're looking for somebody who's a little bit more vulnerable. But that doesn't mean it can't happen to anyone.
But not always. Well, and vulnerable can take a lot of characteristics, right?
Absolutely.
I do appeals for social services. So we've seen exchange students, they're extremely intelligent. They're here, whether they're here for the college or even a younger program, but a lot of times with the university, but they're in a foreign country and they're unfamiliar with their surroundings and they're more vulnerable because of that, but they're intelligent. They're top of their class, and they're traveling internationally to study for a reason, and they're still brought into this, right? So intelligence isn't part of it either.
Absolutely not.
There's a lot of psychology behind it. So when we're talking about, how to, not just parents, but also family members of other family members that they're worried about, concerned, how do we reach out? How do they reach out? Where do they get resources? Because you're definitely a resource for survivors. Absolutely. And I'll bring up one little thing, because Debbie, have you been at the airport and you go in the bathroom stall and there's a sign on the back of the door? It says, if you need help, call this number.
Yeah.
That's aimed at human trafficking. That's what those signs are there for. Human trafficking, because a lot of times in that bathroom stall, that may be the only place that they
are alone.
Yeah.
That's pretty sad, pretty scary.
I think it was a brilliant campaign to start putting it in airports.
It absolutely, yeah.
I don't know. Do you know the numbers to how successful it is, if anybody uses it or not?
I don't. I know that, when we were talking about putting our campaign together this year, some of the other things that we really wanted to target were ride shares, Lyfts, your Ubers, just different ways and different modes of transportation so that we can get the word out there. And I think it's Blue Campaign. Is a Blue Campaign that does the one in the airport? I can't think of who does it.
Something like that, yeah. And
Brilliant.
I've seen them in taxis, but I have never seen the sign in an Uber or a Lyft. That's a good point.
And we talked about, what could we do like in doctor's offices? Because, I think of like when you go to the hospital, there's a sign in the bathroom in labor and delivery about if you're experiencing domestic violence. Well, why shouldn't those signs include human trafficking or sexual, things like that. So, really just trying to get the information out there. And so that when, again, like you said, if they're alone, if they have to go into a doctor's appointment by themselves, and that's their only opportunity to maybe talk about their victimization, they feel safe doing so.
Well, I'll tell you, because this is my nerd thing. I love watching the doctor shows. Yes, I'm a lawyer, not a doctor, but I love all the doctor shows, Grey's Anatomy, all that stuff. And several of them have had programs lately on human trafficking.
Yeah.
In the emergency room, a young lady comes in and she's got her what we call a handler with her, that's making sure she is not telling on them the entire time, and they're controlling her medical care, and they're telling the doctors what it is she's feeling instead of letting her speak for herself, but saying their family, Aunt so-and-so's with her. And it's often a female with a female, right?
And Opal, I remember that episode.
I know, right? I was like, yes, they're getting human trafficking out in these TV shows. And that's part of what it takes, right? But so what services do you guys provide specifically?
So our services are more focused to the adults. Victims of human trafficking. We don't do a lot of the youth. And I think it's just one, we really haven't branched out, and that's something that Awaken does really well. And so there's really not a need for us. If they called us and said, hey, we need some programming, we'd be like, okay, how do we finagle this? So, the first step is really crisis intervention. So, if you know somebody or somebody wants to potentially leave that situation, to call us and just say, hey, I'm in a really bad situation. I need to get away from my pimp. I need to get away from my abuser. We have a 24-hour hotline that is staffed with an advocate. I myself take that on a 4-week rotation. So I know that our staff are actually taking calls, and at that point in time, it's really of what's going on. Are you safe? If you're not safe, how can we get you to a safe place so that we can say, okay, you're finally at a safe place. How do we connect you either with our resources or another program's resources that can meet your needs? And so,
before we get too far, what is the hotline? Because we'll give it again at the end, but
absolutely.
I'm thinking I want to write this down.
So our hotline is 775-322-3466. We also have an online web form at www.safeembrace.org. A lot of times we find that it is not safe to call these individuals, but it is safe to email. And so we want for them to feel safe if we were to contact them back. And so they can tell us a little bit about their situation. Is it safe to call you? Is it safe to email you? And what sort of are your needs? Because if we just have to communicate via email, very short appointment at 2 p.m., that's what it is. And so there's not really any sort of identifying information, because again, confidentiality at this point is key, because we know at that point in time when, even in domestic violence, but trafficking, that it's so imperative at that time when they're getting ready to flee that situation and the danger they're potentially in, we want to make sure that we're addressing their needs immediately.
Now, do you service all of Northern Nevada, or are you?
Do, and we've actually, so yeah, we actually have had trafficking survivors even from out of state. So we, I would say primarily Washoe County, but we have worked with partner agencies throughout the state, because sometimes we have it to where maybe their pimp or their abuser finds them at a shelter in one of the rural counties or in Clark County, and
or
really,
relocate some, right?
yes, and we need to relocate them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no stipulation. We don't have any stipulations on time you can stay in our shelter just because you're out of state or you're out of county. There really is no barriers to accessing services.
Well, and remember, yes, you work with the adults, but remember, everyone, children are kidnapped or trafficked, go willingly, turn up in the data book as runaways, but really they were trafficked, and they become adults, and they're still part of the system. They're still part of the trafficking, and they're often, when they become adults, is when they realize they've got to escape, and they've got to reach out to someone like you, right? Yeah, it's so numbers, because we're going to talk about your programs and stuff, and you've threw it out real quick in the beginning, but how many people, you're servicing just adults, we're not talking about Awaken and the children, you're servicing how many adults right now?
So currently in programming?
Whatever services you provide, what's your number?
So right now, we currently have, I want to say, 3 trafficking survivors on our wait list. We have 1 trafficking survivor in our shelter, and we have 4 in our community housing program.
Okay, so wait list. So you've got somebody who's being trafficked, who's actively being trafficked right now, but you can't help them because they're on your wait list.
Or they're in another program, but they need something more. And so, what we have seen is, sometimes they need, maybe they're going to, a substance abuse program. They're getting clean. That is not a barrier for our program. You can come in. You don't have to be clean. Just don't do drugs on property. That's really our rule. But a lot of times it's, and that's what is one of the questions that we ask.
That would be why they're in the wait list part of it.
Yes. And one of the biggest indicators when we are doing we call them lethality assessments, and we've tweaked them with the help of Awaken to do a trafficking assessment. And so there's a score that's assigned based on lethality. And those are the people that are brought in, say, for maybe we have somebody who's on the brink of homelessness, their abuser's in prison for 5 years, they're not immediate danger, but they need the services, but maybe not necessarily as much as that trafficking survivor that needs to flee immediately. And in those cases, we may have a wait list on our shelter, but we have really remarkable partnerships with local motels. And it's not always ideal. And again, that's where we come together is a community who's in victim services, who's working with trafficking survivors. What can we do for this survivor?
We're going to cut you off.
We're going to cut you off. Okay. But hang tight. We're going to take our
hang tight. We'll finish the thought.
Okay. Be right back. 5 times up.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Now more than ever, family matters, and Surratt Law Practice has your family in mind. Kimberly Surratt and her team have been helping maintain healthy families through their holistic approach to adoption and surrogacy, child custody, estate planning, and more for over 13 years. Your family law concerns are in caring hands with Surratt Law. Schedule your private consultation with a compassionate Surratt Law Practice team member today by calling 775-636-8200 or visiting lawyersforfamilies.com. Surratt Law, where family matters.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops, the rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes.
But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable. But how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear. Look for FAST. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911 immediately. Know the sudden signs. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Fenix Media, the future of broadcasting. Explore more great shows at fenixmedia.us.
Ready to help from her toes to her head. Just give her a shout. Call About Town Deb.
My town, your town, or any town, this is About Town Deb presents City Talk. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the fourth and final segment of City Talk. I'm About Town Deb, Debbie McCarthy, your host, with Kim Surratt, our co-host right here. We get her once a month. And Jessica with Safe Embrace. We're so happy that you're sharing such important information that we all need to open our eyes. I like to put myself in a happy box and think the world is a happy place. And it is, but we need to be aware of situations that do actually happen. They just don't happen on TV like we're talking about. It does happen in our own community and probably many other communities as well. So we're so grateful that you're sharing all this information. And I always give a shout out to Grandma B and Aunt Glenda. So I don't want to forget, because family is important. Without Grandma B, I wouldn't be here. So I want to say thank you. So Kim, let's take it on back.
All right. Well, and I would say yes. Anybody that lives in Debbie's world, it's all lollipops and you know, rainbows and
that's not real.
Sincerely, she really sincerely is that happy of a human being. But and then she's got Kim to go, wait a minute, the world's horrible. Listen to all my family law cases.
He tells me every now and then when I have to get off pop out of my bubble and hit reality. So this
she goes to Jim and goes, what's the most depressing topic we could possibly cover, right?
I'll ask him.
So talk back to Safe Embrace and Jessica, because this is our last segment. And really, I mean, I am so, I just can't tell you how impressed I am with Nevada and how far we've come. Off the air, you mentioned the legislature. We really have started to pass some of the best laws in the country. We really do have legislators that are extremely familiar and care about us fixing being 9th in the country for human trafficking, right? So, but in order to do that, we have to support organizations like Awaken and like Safe Embrace. So what can we do to help you? What, anybody that's listening and is endeared by this, what can they do?
You know, I think one of the biggest things, and, you know, hopefully if Melissa's watching, she agrees with me, that, you know, we can always use the financial support. It's huge. You know, I think a lot of us have faced some deficits this year in terms of, you know, for us, the deficit in marriage license funds, you know, and that's a majority of the monies that cover our operational expenses. It keeps a roof over our head, you know, things like that. And so, you know,
so
and the other
thing, of you listening, it's because no one's getting married because there's no Vegas.
Yes, exactly.
That's the point. Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, and I think, you know, having committed volunteers, you know, it's not necessarily a financial contribution, but to volunteer your time, you know, we have so many in-kind donations that come, and they just make our residents and our clients feel so great. Like they put together beauty packages and, you know, shampoos and just like little things that sometimes make a huge difference in the lives of our victims and our survivors. So, you know, I think in-kind donations, you know, just different things like for us, you know, full-size hygiene products, gift cards, you know, things like just little things that we can use. And obviously we've had to really sort of taper back on what we're taking for in-kinds because of COVID. But I think, you know, with financial support, we can continue to grow programs, we continue to collaborate, we can think outside of the box in terms of what kind of services can we provide these survivors to ensure that they're not going back to these bad situations. And
well, gift cards is a good point, because I have at different times in my life reached out to a bunch of people and said, go through all your drawers and find all those gift cards you forgot to use.
Yeah.
I really care that you have them. Can we have them? You know, can we use them? Because a lot of people have that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about your resolution. Debbie brought it up in the first segment, but we didn't get to talk about it much.
Resolution 195. So this was a collaborative effort between Safe Embrace and Awaken to really kind of fuel that New Year's resolution that most people don't through the entire year, but something to try. So because there's 195 survivors that we served in 2020, we wanted to say, hey, how can we fuel your resolution using that number? So I think Debbie's resolution is to drink 19 ounces a day, 19.5.
19.5.
19.5.
Extra a day. That's not all you're drinking. That's not enough water.
No, it said extra a day. But
extra.
But I was looking at your list, and the list is long of amazing ideas. I picked something that was a little bit easier because I really wanted to do it. And I wanted to be aware of it. Okay, this is extra, or pour a little bit more, or take that extra huge glass. And I wanted to remember and remind myself why I was doing it. Yep. So whatever, is there a list? Is there, you know, where would they go to find that? And they could start it in February. They can
start it anytime they want.
January, you're good. Just do it.
Yeah, there's still time. Yeah. So we have a couple of different just options, you know, and we kind of break it as like, you know, some workout options, or if you want to do self-care, if you want to do 19.5 minutes a day of meditation or reading or something just to kind of center yourself. So there's a list of them on our website at www.safeembrace.org. If you click on the Resolution 195 campaign, it will give you some examples and you can kind of see some different things. Mine was to run 195 miles this month.
Wow.
6 more miles to go.
Woo, woman. Whoa, girl.
Hopefully I'll make it to the gym. Not sure about this weather, but
I'm drinking 19.5 ounces of wine extra a day. No.
I thought about that too, but then I'm thinking,
go
I gotta get
people. Go healthy.
Yeah. You know, if you're listening, whether it's live or the replay, if we would love you to put what you would like to do, and even if it's not 195, or if you've already picked something, please put it in there, or if you have any questions. But seriously, or if you want to make a donation, you know, we will, every single comment we will answer, we will check, but we would love you to share your ideas of what you feel you could do for 195 as well.
So for example, I could do hashtag resolution 195 and say, I'm going to donate, which I am, I'm going to do this. I'm going to donate $195 a month to Safe Embrace.
Yeah, good job.
I challenge everybody watching this, do the exact same thing. You can do it. $195 a month could be your Starbucks in a month, right?
Yeah.
Easily.
Absolutely.
People with really bad habits.
Yeah.
Put together, this is where About Town Deb loves to do, put together 195 packages or something, or 195
kits. Yeah.
Hygiene kits.
Like shampoo, whatever, kits. I think that's something that I could actually, I have a Facebook page that's going to be opening up on Friday. Maybe I could ask for 195 people to donate something.
Fantastic.
Melissa, if you're listening, I just gave you another idea. I think that's a great idea, though. You can gather your women friends, your church groups, your young kids can do, if they're a Girl Scout or a Cub Scout or Boy Scout.
And I know you like full-size hygiene products, but the reality is you can also use like all those ones when you go to a hotel.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Take
that
them
works too.
And we give out those hygiene packs very frequently that has, you know,
the hotel ones.
How many people come and they're like, I just want to wash my hair and shave my legs. And have a nice soap and like, just some nice things in it. So we
A
all
lot of hotels put out nice stuff. So
yes, exactly.
I know I get made fun of because I clear it out every day, and then I bring because I know I want to donate them.
See, no,
I got paid for them. They came with my room.
I clear them out too. I actually took some this last trip, so I do the same thing, Kim. I'm like, they have to toss them anyway. We should take them and donate.
Just might as well take them, and yeah, you're closer to your 195.
I agree. I am closer to it. That is going to be one of my goals, is to do that this year.
All right. So like everybody else, COVID's hit you guys with your big event, right? What do you usually do?
So we have two big events. We have our Top Hats Presents, which is in usually the spring. We were scheduled to do it in April, and then we're like, oh, maybe in June, and then we're kind of like, COVID. And yeah, probably not. And then we have our Trees and Lights Gala that we do every year, right before Thanksgiving, because it's always nice to have trees that are already decorated delivered to your home, and that's one of my favorite fundraisers. It's gorgeous. Trees and wreaths, and it's
Well,
really
I would
beautiful.
say, because I know about it, but I think there's a lot of people that don't know about that one. So
I didn't know about it till last year.
Keep that in your mind. I mean, we'll make sure, when the time comes, we'll get the information out. But
remind us.
Yes, absolutely will do. Yes.
You know you will.
So
I know you
this
will.
year, just like every other organization, it's an important year to donate. It's an important year to really think about these organizations, because these events bring a lot of money for these
They do.
nonprofits. And so it's important. All right, Debbie,
I know.
that's the last thing.
Okay.
Donate, people.
So
Donate.
donate. So website one more time, and I'll have it on my site.
Yeah, it's www.safeembrace.org.
Yes. So we want you can rewatch the show. You can get lots of information. You can go to all of our websites. You can find out, Kim, how do we get a hold of you if somebody has some family law questions?
Lawyersforfamilies.com.
That's pretty easy. So Kim, I'm going to give a shout out here because Kim said she was enjoying a little bit of whiskey. So I have Frey Ranch whiskey here, which is they're out of Fallon, which I love them. And Jazzy George and I with Isogenics, there's this new collagen elixir. And I'm partnering with a spa in town that might be mixing something with it. So there's lots of cool things that are happening, and I have my About Town Deb wine. But this collagen elixir, I've been taking before and after photos, so hopefully I will be glowing more. My hands won't be so dry, all that. My eyelashes will be growing, all that cool stuff. So anyway, lots of good stuff happening. I'm just grateful to be your About Town Deb. My town, your town, any town. I love connecting with you. I'm grateful for Kim. I'm grateful for Kurt, who is one of our sponsors with Gratis Gives, and Jessica, you and your whole team, and all your board members and your volunteers. You have such an amazing board. And I want to also thank Sean McConnell, because I've always supported you guys, but he got me in a little bit deeper. Like, hey, you're going to help on the events and you're going to do that. So I'm very grateful for all your volunteers and everybody. And you out there, if you're listening, we appreciate you for tuning in to About Town Deb. We'll be back next week, and we're going to be talking about women in sports. We'll be at the Babe Cave with